This is Ted from Wandering Light. I'm your host today from overcast Carlsbad, California. So I haven't created a podcast for a while, and I apologize for that. And it's obviously been a number of weeks since my last podcast. But in answer to probably some of your worries, no, I haven't lost my creative juices, or I have not been falling into not being positive. I have been preoccupied with a number of things over the last 8 weeks or so, maybe a little bit longer. And I'd like to spend today's podcast talking about those because I have learned a lot during that process, or during that time frame. Early in my diagnosis, Dr. McDonald, my doctor at Cleveland Clinic, wanted me to take physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. But that was right at the beginning of COVID, and if you can remember back to then, we remember that we really didn't know what was spreading it. We were moved right into lockdown, and I just didn't feel comfortable with doing that type of close work in terms of physical therapy, or in particular occupational or speech therapy. So I put it off. After a while, I decided, it's time to go back to those, and I got a new prescription, and we submitted it. And so starting in last October, beginning of October, I started physical therapy and occupational therapy. And then I was followed up a little while later with speech therapy, and I'm going to save a little bit of that conversation towards later in the podcast, because I really want to tell you about something that happened with that was really quite humorous, is I guess the word I would like to use. But during that 8 weeks, I learned a great deal. So let's talk about first physical therapy. One of the things that I learned first about physical therapy when it deals with dementia and its effect upon your ability to walk, balance, those types of things, handle stairs, what have you, is the tool that they use to help kind of pinpoint exactly where your issues is at, or which issues are at, and it's called a balance box. The balance box has two pedals, or two places where you place your feet, and then you're in this box that surrounds you on three sides, and in a harness that kind of looks like a parachute harness in case you fall. You won't fall down. And in front of you is a scene of scenery that is at the beginning level. And during the process of doing the evaluation, your feet move. Sometimes during the process, and in other sets, the scenery will move. The comment, you lean forward and you lean back, and all things which are, quite frankly, not in your control, but are based upon the placement of the pedals or the scenery, etc. It's anybody who's actually ever gone through it, it's unnerving. But what it does give them is an understanding of where you have your problems with balance. So if you're walking up a hill and you have problems with up incline, it'll show that. If it's going down, it'll show down or left or right, etc. Or if it changes scenery, all that is great data that helps them tune the physical therapy for your needs, because not everybody is the same when it comes to losing or having balance problems related to dementia, particularly in my case, particularly Lewy body dementia, because it does affect the cerebellum, which is what gives you your ability to maintain balance and other things, including your perception and thought and limbic cortex, which plays a major role in emotions and behavior. And so you can see where how changes in that environment can make people mad and what have you, and create anger issues that are totally out of control, but are just a way that, in fact, Lewy body dementia affects that part of their brain. So physical therapy helped me tune in to what I needed via the box. We worked on, for me, it was a right balance issue. I also had problems going up a hill. Not only they set up a series of exercises for me to do at home, which I still do, and they helped me maintain my balance. I still walk with a cane because I need that extra sense of balance, because sometimes, let's face it, the world is not always even and flat, and you get yourself in certain circumstances, and that cane gives you that extra sense of security I need. And sometimes, quite frankly, my whole balance system seems to be off. Again, that's where the cane can help. For those of you who are reluctant to use a cane or a device like that, I can tell you, if it's a choice between using a cane and falling and breaking my arm, my wrist, worse, my hip, something like that, I choose the cane. And I think that's the smart choice that we all should come to. And I hope you don't find yourself in a situation where your pride or your lack of willingness to show that you need help gets in the way of using something like a cane or some other type of device to help you with your physical needs. The next type of therapy, which I mentioned, was occupational therapy. Occupational therapy, most people think it's about, well, do you have rugs in your house? Do you have handrails in the right spot? Are there other tripping hazards? Are there the doorways wide enough, etc.? Are there things in the way of your normal path of walking in your home, or etc.? It also deals with your driving skills. Somebody who has problem with driving may have to go through occupational therapy because of their reaction times, etc. But occupational therapy is a lot more than that. Occupational therapy helped me realize where I have weaknesses, particularly with driving. One of the tools they use is a box with lights all over it. You basically stand in front of it, and underneath each light is a button, and they measure your reaction time of touching the buttons within a 60-second duration. The first time I took the test, I kept my eyes centered, and then I used my peripheral vision to see the lights that were around me to my right, left, up, and above, and below. And my speed of number of touches in a 60-second period were 20. That, from a driving point of view, says you shouldn't drive. Then I later took the test, a separate day, where I used I aided my peripheral vision and didn't rely on it, and I moved my head up, down, right, left, just like, and in that I was anywhere from 50 to 60 touches in a second. So you can see the dramatic improvement that was made by not relying strictly on my peripheral vision to see if somebody was moving in or a car was moving into my area, what have you. So that was one of the first major things I learned. We went through a number of other training tools that helped me with first evaluated and then helped me with my reaction time, my thinking time, my moving from visualization through cognitive to action. And during those tests, over time, I improved. Near the end of my occupational therapy, I took what was a driving test for reaction time, where you have a screen in front of you, and then you have to react during that and either press the gas or press the brake. And although I wasn't up to the speed that I used to or could be at for some person my age, I certainly was passing, and I think it gave Christy the comfort to know that I could drive, as well as, quite frankly, if I had to take that test for the Department of Motor Vehicles, because to say I had an accident, I would have passed with more than adequate times. So those are just some of the things of occupational therapy, but what was left, or what I learned at the end, was there's a lot of things which I can do to keep working on that. And interestingly enough, they're available on our iPads or your tablets. And they work with hand-eye coordination and other things where you get a cue and then you have to do something, and that keeps working that process of hand and reaction time, or eye and reaction time, input and reaction time. And so I'm still doing that. I find it interesting and challenging. I will publish a list of the half a dozen or so applications that I was given, and hopefully those will help you as well. But if recommended, if you are recently diagnosed, or if your doctor has not recommended physical therapy, occupational therapy, or speech therapy, bring it up to them. You can only benefit from these. The next thing that I took was speech therapy. And as I said, there's a little bit of comic relief in that process. Like with physical therapy and occupational therapy, speech therapy was submitted to Medicare at the same time. On physical therapy and occupational therapy, they came immediately back and gave the permission, or how many sessions and what have you I could have. And with speech therapy, they sent me a denial letter that said, basically, you're not going to get better because you have a degenerative disease, in my case, Lewy body dementia, which prevents you from ever getting better. Ergo, we're denying speech therapy because we don't think that in the long run it's going to help you. Based upon that, they probably shouldn't give me any of my prescription approved, or even an aspirin, because in the end, I'm not going to get better. But I just thought that was ludicrous. They submitted again, got the same answer. I think it was submitted 3 times. Finally, the people at speech therapy wrote a long explanation of what they would be doing and how it would improve my situation, having Lewy body dementia, and it was approved for 12 sessions. But this is just a good example of how crazy our healthcare system is. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you because it was like, I just couldn't believe it, right? It just didn't make sense on any level. I called Medicare personally and said, why this just doesn't make sense. I think the guy on the phone said, absolutely, just submit a letter of rejection, about the rejection, that you don't agree with it. And it's like, and then I looked up what it took to do that, and you wouldn't believe the paperwork it takes to fight a a rejection from Medicare. But onward, it did get approved, and speech therapy turned out to be one of the most interesting parts of the three that I took. Speech therapy, I thought, would be about my articulation, which certainly can be improved, or my speed of speech. I do stutter now and then, I find that very challenging. But I also know that I would get lost in my words. I would get ahead of, I would get to a point in what I was trying to say, and I just couldn't get to the next section. And so there'd either be a long pause, or worse, I'd lose, excuse me, my thought process. And so speech therapy, instead of just addressing articulation and those kind of things, which really did very little about that, but focused on the latter part, which was tuning my cognitive thinking and the way I use my cognitive thinking, given that I have a problem with it. It taught me to slow down a bit, to think ahead or create a plan for what I'm going to say before I say it, and it taught me to do exercises that help me with that process. So at the end, occupational therapy both left me with tools that I could use to help with my coordination between my eye and my body. Speech therapy left me with tools to work on and apps that allow me to work between my mind and my speech, and even occupational therapy recommended that I work on things like models and those kind of things. We're just here in Carlsbad, where Legoland is, and they recommended that I do Legos. Well, I don't know about you, but anyone else my age didn't grow up with Legos. We grew up with Lincoln Logs, or an erector set, or what have you. So, or building model planes, what have you. So, I think if I'm going to do something like that, I'd like to build a model plane, and actually one that I've never done before that actually flies. So, but anyway, those are all part of what those three therapy sessions can do for you. So I hope, one, you look to your doctor to get those prescriptions, or two, if you've got them, that you do them and you do the follow through. Again, I'll put the apps for both speech and occupational therapy up on the website that goes along with this podcast at wanderinglight.com. And again, that's wandering, LITE.com. We'll keep you posted on any other things that I learned related to those three things, three therapies. Last, I'd like to talk about just what other things I've been doing since my last podcast. It has been some time, and during that time we took a trip to Colorado, kind of as a test trip for the trip that we're on now. We're actually gone, we're wintering in California, easy patsy. We're wintering in California, and we took almost 2 weeks to get out here, and we'll be out here until April. But we had an opportunity, thanks to a friend that has a condo in Colorado, and we were able to take a couple-week trip out through the Badlands to see Mount Rushmore, to go and see Buffalo, and just South Dakota and North Dakota, and Rapid City, that area, and also Santa Fe. And then we spent some time in the mountains in Colorado, up at actually 10,000 feet. So for a week. But anyway, that really helped us me make sure that being away from home, which does bother some people with dementia, actually didn't bother me, but actually in some ways rejuvenated me. I do love travel, always love travel, and it was a good use of our time. But during that time, I took a hiatus from doing my podcast. I didn't bring along the equipment, what have you, because we were moving from one place to the other. And then also in November, I was able to speak at a conference put on by Teepa Snow and her organization. They have an annual conference for those people who provide care or are the caregivers or facility managers and in places that take care of people with dementia and have memory problems. But Teepa's organization is very special. It focuses on the positive care and positive aspects of taking care of people with dementia. It is non-traditional and certainly an organization that I support. Lately I have even heard of memory care units or nursing homes, that's not a right word, progressive homes that actually use Teepa's methodology, their organization's methodology called positive care, in their organization as a marketing tool for those people looking for some place that they may need to place a loved one. In that, the speech I was able to give, I talked about the aspects of choosing to be positive. In my experience of moving from a diagnosis to, quite frankly, being, as most people would, very depressed about the diagnosis, to accepting and turning to become positive, and what that does for your life and how it affects you and others. So that's really what this whole podcast is all about in the end, and I love being associated with Teepa and her organization. We also have a core group which she works with, which have people with various forms of dementia. And starting this year, we are going to start showcasing some conversations with that group. Stay tuned for later information. I'll provide a link to Teepa's website as soon as they have that posted for the topics, etc. But I think you'll find it very interesting. This group is people like me who have chosen to be positive in spite of the things that are changing within their brain. These people are professionals. They were college professors. They were airline pilots. They were nationally recognized writers for newspapers. It's just a great group of people that had great skills and have not been, they haven't just chucked it all because they've been diagnosed with dementia, and they've chosen to be positive each and every day. So I hope you'll connect with that and look for topics that you're interested in. You'll be able to ask questions during those sessions, and we'll keep you posted on that. The last part I have to say is just the time that it took to come out here. We took a couple weeks, and one of my bucket list items that has been canceled a number of times was seeing the Grand Canyon. On our way out here, I was able to see the Grand Canyon, and I'm still in awe of what I saw, the magnificence of this earth and its beauty that God has created, just the splendor of it all is breathtaking. And to think about the time and the years that took to create such a natural wonder is something I'm thankful for, that I was finally able to go see. So I wanted to leave you with that thought. You know, I don't know what's on your bucket list. I hope you're able to find those things, certainly that are in the United States. At least that's some travel that we can do without all the challenges of COVID has created to go international. I wanted to let you know that travel is something you can do, but you have to change your pace. You're not going to be able to rush from this place to that place. In my particular situation, like with many people with dementia, I have to take a nap in the afternoon, otherwise there's kind of a ripple effect of really being depressed or being challenged to get up and handle each day health, and from a healthy point of view, not just from an emotional point of view. But we adapt, we change, but do put travel into your list of things that you can do, but make sure that you figure out how to do it different than you used to. This is Ted from Wandering Light and Dementia Talks, and I wanted to thank you for joining me today again, and I hope what I've just covered has provided you some useful information, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.